Welcome to the Milltown Sports Show.
I'm here today with Coach Brindley. This is Rhonda Burr with Milltown Sports. We're going to do a fall preview with Coach Brindley on the upcoming season for Pisgah football. Coach, good to see you. I hope you had a great summer and everything's going well.
Yep, it is. We've worked hard this summer and very proud of what our guys have been able to accomplish so far.
Coming off that magical season last year, Coach, we made it all the way to the 4A finals, Western finals, and had to play Brevard. We knew that was going to be a tough matchup. That's a big ask for these kids coming up this year to kind of repeat that. How do you motivate your team now?
I think it's about developing leadership. It's about developing probably the ability to compete no matter the circumstances, and I think that's what I was so proud of about that group last year is we had such good leadership. We had kids that understood essentially what it took to be successful, and they were willing to sacrifice that. And I think at this point you're really trying to do the same with this group and help them develop into the leaders that you need them to be.
Well, Coach, you got a lot of seniors that graduated. You lost a lot, and is your cupboard bare, or is it got something coming up?
We've got some really good players. I think we've got some guys that we feel very confident in their ability, and it's going to be about, can they progress, can they develop, can they play at a level that we need them to on Friday nights, because they're really going to be unproven. When you look at the share touches that we essentially lost from last year, it was almost 95% of the touches that we had on offense that are gone. So we've got some guys that can play. It's just a matter of can they do it consistently and can they execute at a high level.
Well, you've got some big shoes in that backfield to fill. Mr. Landon Pope is, he was probably the key driving force last year for that big long run. That's a big pair of shoes to fill for this year.
It is. 353 touches, I think 350 carries and 3 receptions. So, he was a workhorse for us, and his body could physically handle it. So we know we've got to be able to do some things in the backfield, to be able to develop some kids, and feel really good about Easton Frady. He's coming off an injury and only was able to play a couple of games on the JV level last year and played a little bit on Friday night in certain games. But he's healthy, and he's had a good summer. And then Zayden Monteith played the first 2 years at Inca, his JV seasons at Inca, and then is transferred here last November. So he's assimilated really well with our team and worked extremely hard in the weight room. So that's a young man that we look to be able to carry the ball too.
Yeah, when your team's lost a lot of talent but inexperience from your first year players, they play a role at Pisgah. Does that dampen your expectations?
I don't think it dampens them. I think you still have the same expectations, and that's to compete for conference championships. It's just that there's going to be a developmental process. That there's going to be some guys that are going to have some ups and downs, particularly early in the season, and you've got to be able to be patient with them and help them grow and help them develop and not make the same mistakes twice, so that by the time you get to the conference portion of your schedule, you're ready to go.
Well, let's talk about the offensive line. We know everything starts up front on your offense. Yeah. So let's talk about your offensive line, who you got returning and what you expect of your newcomers coming up.
We have 2 returning starters, our left guard, Carson Riley, and our right tackle, Nick Messer. Carson was an all-conference performer last year and arguably our best offensive lineman. I know Jace Creason got a lot of headlines as the lineman of the year in our conference, but Carson was just as good and just as consistent. So he's one of those guys that we look to for stability and leadership there up front. And then Nick was also very undersized, but he was able to be explosive off the ball, generate a lot of horizontal force, played with great pad level. So he's one of those guys that has some experience, played in some big-time football games, and we know that we've got to be successful up front with those 2.
Starting with your center, you got to replace another good center. Replacing Luca Francis. You got who you got in mind? It's going to be your starting center for the Bears.
We've got 3 guys right now that are competing for the job, and Colby Woods is one of them, a rising junior. Has been a varsity player since his freshman year as a long snapper, but he's kind of developed physically, and he's going to compete for the starting center job to go along with junior Silas Fortney and sophomore Tristan Brown.
Well, that competition will make a good turnout for your guys. It makes them work harder to win that position. Talk about your skill players outside, your wide receivers, what you're looking at coming up.
Got a lot of skill guys that we have confidence in. Again, it's just going to be about them continuing to develop. I've told them from day one, you know, I've got to have confidence as a play caller that no matter what we call, they're going to be able to execute it in terms of their alignment, in terms of their, you know, their route stem or how they're attacking leverage and things like that. So we really have 5 guys that we feel great about. Kel Holloway, Ryan Rife. Ryan had a phenomenal sophomore season on the JVs last year. I think he had 7 touchdown receptions. Seniors Aiden Rana and Tahari McLean, 2 very explosive guys that have the potential to be very good for us on offense. And then junior Josh Lowe, who's going to carry the football a lot for us. He's going to catch the football for us. We've got to be able to find ways to allow him to touch it. And you know, that's a young man that he can go to the distance anytime he's got his hands on the football.
For compared to your JVs and your varsity, all those guys you named off, I just hear speed, 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 because Josh Lowe was a speedster on the JV team. Easton Frady was really fast. You got Ryan Rife, he was a phenomenal speedster. So there's a lot more speed this year.
I think we've got more speed this year. We've got a little more depth at the wideout position. You know, last year really we felt very confident in 2 guys, and that was Maddox Wright and Mason Putnam. And those were the 2 guys that we trusted to be able to execute what we needed to out there on the field. And we played a lot of 12 personnel stuff last year just because of the groupings that we had, and felt like Maddox and Mason were the wideouts that we could trust out there. So this year we've got, I think, 5 right now that we feel really good about, and you know, we want to be able to get the football too.
Who you, of your rising seniors, who do you see being your biggest leader right now?
I think right now for us, you're probably looking at Carson Riley. That's a young man who's been in the fire, and I've always told him that you know, leadership without character is cancer, and that is certainly not definitive of Carson. He's got high character. He's a young man who I believe I can go to at any moment. He's going to do the right thing. You know, so I've always looked to him as a guy who I would want leading my team. I never want someone with poor character leading my football team. So right now, Carson Riley seems to be the guy.
Yeah, I love Carson Riley. He was so awesome last year. Talk about your defensive side. You're relying on your defense. Are you going to have a lot of your offensive and defensive linemen rotate? We'll play a lot of guys both sides of the football this year, just based on a depth issue that we have up front. We don't have many offensive and defensive linemen, so we'll play a lot of guys both ways. Rowan Luman inside will be a really good player for us, as well as Carson Riley and Jared Capps, all 3 of them seniors. Those are 3 defensive tackles that we feel really good about. And then our defensive ends, you know, we think we've got a pretty good cupboard of those with Hank Case and Nick Messer, as well as Noah Warren, some guys that can give us some really good snaps on defense. Hank Case had an outstanding year on JVs on that defensive end, so I think you've got a real good headhunter on that end. We do. He's a good football player, and he's technically sound and does everything you ask him to do as far as from a coaching perspective. Well, Coach, nobody talks about the kicking game. You know, that's the most important part of the game. Yeah. I know that we've struggled the last couple of years with a good kicker. We hadn't had a good kicker since the White brothers left. So, talk about your kicking game. Long snapper too, because nobody talks about the long snapper. Sure. That's the most important job. Colby Woods is the incumbent there. He's done it, like I said, since he was a freshman, and I have a lot of confidence in him, a lot of faith in him. Doesn't matter if we're backed up in our own end zone. I know that Colby's going to put it where it's supposed to be. In the kicking game this year, we've got Luis Mendoza, who's a rising sophomore. Talented kid, has never done it before, but he's got a very strong leg, and you know, if we can be consistent with our extra points, then we feel really good about what Luis is doing. It takes the pressure off your offense when you're going to be consistent on that. Talk about your secondary. We hadn't talked about that. I know we lose Mason Putnam and Maddox Wright, which both were really tall. They could jump up and get the ball. Maddox Wright had the height. Mason Putnam had the speed and elusiveness. Talk about your secondary. So we've got Tahari McLean and Ryan Rife right now that are competing at corners. Had a really good summer out of those 2. It's a new scheme for them, so we're doing a lot of install, a lot of teaching. There's a lot of mistakes that happen that we're correcting and trying to grow from. And then on the back end at safety, we've got Harper Henson, who's a really good football player, does a good job in space tackling for us, has a nose for the football. And then Aiden Rana, who started last year for us in the secondary, he's back as a safety, and we feel really good about him too. And he's a headhunter too, because if I remember last year, he don't mind mixing it up. All right, the last position that I want to talk about, your quarterback. Got to replace Matthew Mahaffey, 2-year starter. Had an awesome year last year. Talk started the season injured, coming off an injury, but as the year went on, he got better and better. You've got a great rising junior coming up from the JV team. Talk about your quarterback position.
Matthew Mahaffey is almost irreplaceable just from his calmness, his being cool under pressure, and I think that's the thing that always stood out to me about him was just what a good football player he was in difficult situations. And so being able to replace that's difficult. We've got two kids that are competing for the job right now. Senior Zane Wilson, who's got a lot of really good traits about him. I think the kid's got the ability to run the football a little bit. And then you've got junior Jackson Swanger, who's a 2-year starter on the JVs, led them to an undefeated season last year in a conference championship. The thing that stands out with Jackson is just, I have a great deal of confidence if I call something, he's going to be able to execute it, whether it's motions or pre-snap adjustments, post-snap reads. He's been ingrained in the offense for 2 years, and he's got a lot of savvy about him from a quarterback perspective. So both those kids bring traits that we really like and feel good about.
Well, I know the expectations for this season are a little low for Pisgah because a lot of the prognosticators have had y'all pick 6th, except for me. I prognosticate y'all finishing 2nd. Does it put a lot of pressure on you with the coming into this season with everybody thinking y'all not going to have a good season?
No, not necessarily, because I know the work that these kids have put in. I also, for the lack of a better term, I know the base that a lot of these prognosticators have in terms of intelligence, and what they know and what they think they know are two completely different things. So no, I don't believe it puts a lot of pressure on me, and I certainly don't take it that way.
That wouldn't either.
Yeah.
Talk about our schedule. We got 6 home games this year. That's unusual for Pisgah. That's going to be a lot of big crowds for you. Talk about that with this young team, how much that's going to be an advantage for you.
I think being able to play at home, being able to walk down that hill and cross the bridge is a big deal. Anytime you can do that and play in front of your home crowd and hopefully have an electric environment before the game, during the game, after the game, those are all great things that can play a part in helping your team be successful. So we're very fortunate, feel like, to have 6 home games this year, and hope that we can give these guys a good show. And
you got Tuscola at home, the big rivalry, which is amazing. Franklin, let's talk about how you feel about going to, we got to play Franklin in the pit this year, and they got a new field. That's going to be our toughest competition in the conference.
Sure, Franklin right now, when you look at them and what they've got returning, and certainly a kid who's a legitimate G5 or Power 4 kind of kid, and Garrett Young, the tailback, he's a difficult kid to tackle. And then when you couple that with how well they're coached, how they play up front, the talent level that they've got returning up front, that it's going to be a really good football team, and they're going to be a physical football team, and you hope that you can be in it in the fourth quarter and just kind of grind a win out there in a difficult environment.
4 new coaches in the conference this year, Coach. That really is one reason I picked Pisgah number 2 in the conference, is that Brevard, they lost a lot. They lost Tristan Wynn, he transferred. They lost their tight end that transferred, their good tight end. So you got 4 new 1-year head coaches in the conference. It's really going to make the conference different this year.
It changes things, it certainly does, because you get used to seeing certain people and kind of having an understanding of what they do and having some familiarity with them. So with these new coaches, some of them first-time head coaches, you're not going to have a base, or you're not going to be able to fall back on certain things that you've been able to look at from a film perspective over the years. And it may take some time. There may take some games there where you're trying to figure out what their goals are and what they're trying to accomplish on a Friday night.
Talk about your 7-on-7s you've had so far this season. We got one here tonight at Kent Memorial Stadium. Talk about the ones you've had so far.
We went to Hendersonville 2 weeks ago. Felt really good about how our kids performed. We know that's certainly a program that does a lot of 7-on-7s. That's something that they do every summer. I think that was their 8th, and it was our first. But I was very pleased, particularly when I left, about how we competed on both sides of the ball. We executed at a high level. We were able to make some plays offensively and put the ball in the end zone, so I felt really good about that. And then had the FCA 7-on-7 this past Tuesday here, where we saw Asheville, Murphy, and Madison. And we know how talented Asheville is. Asheville's probably the most talented team in Western North Carolina this year. So it was great to be able to see them and compete with them. And then Murphy coming off a state championship game appearance. A lot of good football players. They're going to do what they do, and we know they're going to run the football, but it was good to be able to compete with them and see some good players from Murphy High School.
So tonight at Camp Memorial Stadium, who are you competing against with tonight?
We've got Reynolds tonight here at our place at 5 o'clock, so I think it's going to be a great opportunity for our kids to get better. It's going to be a good opportunity to see some athleticism and some speed, and you know, hopefully take a step in the right direction.
Coaching staff, any changes on your coaching staff for the from last year?
Sherman Holt has joined us from Swain County. He's been a head coach at Swain for the last 4 years, and he's taken a job here teaching metals up in E building, and he's going to be our defense coordinator. When Coach Rodomer came to me and said, you know, I think it's time for me to kind of take a step back with basketball and the busyness that causes him. So he's going to step back and coach our corners and let Coach Holt be the defensive coordinator, and that's really going to help us. And Jonathan Owen has joined us. Was a good football coach at Brevard for a long time, was the offensive coordinator at Bethel Middle last year, and he's going to join us and help us coach safeties this year.
So, Coach, it looks like we're going to have a successful season again here at Camp Memorial Stadium, and I hope all the fans come out and back these Black Bears. And we had a successful drawdown for the programs. Yep. I mean, it just keeps building up success after success.
That's it. We just need to put one foot in front of the other and continue to grind and continue to do what we do, and let the pieces fall where they may.
Well, Coach, I appreciate your time, and I know you got to get ready for your 5-on-5.
Yep.
I appreciate you coming down for the interview.
Thank you.
Congratulations and good luck tonight.
Thank you so much.